Is this 2019's boot of the year, and is it the best Mercurial ever? Stick around and we'll find out. What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and today it is probably one of the most important reviews that I'm gonna do this whole year. It is the brand new Nike Mercurial Vapor 13, and we don't only have one colorway to look at, we have two. So while it may look exactly like the Vapor 12, there has been some major changes with this and also some minor changes, all of which I think have improved this boot. There's a lot to talk about, so let's jump straight into the biggest change, the upper. So when we're talking about this entirely new upper on the Vapor 13, it is impossible not to use the word yarn. So I'm going to say this a lot in the next couple of minutes. So the boot is made out of two types of yarn. The first one being the blue material that you see that makes up most of the boot. The blue material is the regular yarn. This is the same kind of yarn that they've used to make the Nike Vaporfly 4%. Now if you've ever held a pair of those, fair enough, they're like 250 pounds running shoes. If you've ever held a pair of those, they are super soft. Like the material is incredibly flexible, which is what they've made these out of, which has fixed the problem from the previous generation of Mercurial where the upper was super stiff. This is not the case here. The upper is really nice and soft, and it's soft out of the box. It's almost good to go straight from the moment you put them on, which is a fantastic improvement. So that makes up the main portion of the upper and gives you most of your touch on the ball, along with the Nike skin coating. So the Nike skin coating runs all around the top and the 360 area of the boot. It is thicker in this 360 area because obviously that is exposed Flyknit. It needs more protection. And then the rest of the boot, the rest of the Flyknit, the rest of that yarn is also covered in Nike skin, but it's a much thinner layer, and it's the thinnest layer we've ever had on a pair of football boots, which again helps to keep that flexibility in the upper. Then on top of that, this is football boots, not running shoes. You need flexibility, but you need structure as well. And the structure is given to you by virtue of this white yarn. So if you can see it, I've used the blue boot deliberately here because the white is much easier to see. It's very difficult to spot this in the blackout colorway and even a little bit so in the orange colorway. So the white yarn is high tenacity yarn. Now this is basically the Roy Keane of yarn, high tenacity, and it is here to provide the structure. So this is a derivative of fly wire cables. So you used to have fly wire cables that ran from the lace loops into the base of the boot, which was great, it worked, it was something that you had on the Superfly, the original Flyknit Superfly. You can see the fly wire cables ran from the lace loops into the base of the foot, and that meant that you could pull the boots tight and you could get good lockdown. This basically does that without the need for those fly wire cables, so you don't get kind of pressure points and harder areas on the boot. It's a uniform fit across the boot, which is amazing. If you've seen my review of the Nike Phantom Vision and how I explain what the quad fit mesh is, that silver material that basically when you apply tension to it, it wraps your foot and it provides you with the structure and the lockdown. This does the same thing, but from a yarn that's knitted into the Flyknit upper. It's so clever. It is basically quad fit mesh, but for the upper, and also provides the upper for the touch on the ball. This has been done so well, and like I say, fixes that huge problem that I had with the Vapor 12 where the upper was just too hard out of the box. So because the upper is also woven in somewhat of a waffle type pattern. This also gives you some texture on the surface of the boot and a little bit of grippiness, which is really nice. So on the Vapor 12, you had those silicone speed ribs that were put in that ran down the front. Now that was literal silicone that had been added to the top of the Nike skin to provide you with texture. There is none of that here. The aim here has been to make the boot and the upper as thin, as barefoot, and as close to your foot as possible, and they've achieved that by taking away any extras, and they have basically made this just the Nike skin coating with the upper, and the upper has texture in it because of the way that it is being created, and that Nike skin top coat just gives it a little bit of texture, which is actually really nice for touch on the ball. It gives you a little bit of grippiness, a little bit more. It's not too slippy, you know, you're not going to touch it and find the ball slides off, but it gives you just what you need, like just enough of what you need while maintaining everything that you want from a Mercurial, which is thin, barefoot, and a tight wrap. That new upper construction also provides you with a great amount of responsiveness in the boot. So that white high tenacity yarn is going to push back almost. So when you make big movements, maybe a big lateral movement, a cut, a change of direction, that yarn, when your foot is pushing against the side of it, kind of holds you. It's like, nope, go the other way. It holds your foot in place, which makes for a very, very responsive boot. This is probably the most responsive boot on the market off the top of my head. Don't hold me to that. And basically, that's because whenever you move, the boot goes with you. There's no lag time. There's no wait for a response. You move, the boot goes with you. The boot pushes and holds you in place and gives you that really great fast responsiveness that you want from a Mercurial. You still get a straightforward central lacing system, which I think looks great. It is a one-piece upper, as you would expect with a knitted boot, and that therefore means you get a dual lace hole setup, and you also get this in Flyknit. So this is just the more stretchy Flyknit to allow you to get your foot in and out of the boot. It is stretchy enough for getting your feet in to not be difficult, but we will get onto this a little later. If you have wide feet, you're probably going to struggle to get these on. I think you're going to struggle even more to actually be comfortable in them. This really isn't a wide foot boot. And yes, the boot does have ACC, but no ACC branding. Don't know why. Nike seem to be big into branding things ACC. No ACC branding, but confirmed the boot has ACC. Okay, taking a look at the weight. These are Mercurial Vapors, they have to be light. It's basically in their DNA. So, dropping them on the scales here, these come in 195 grams, which is a light boot. It's still one of the lightest boots out there, really, really good. Not as light as some other boots we've seen, and even not as light as some past Mercurials we've seen. For example, Vapor 11s, 175 grams, same size, UK 8, EU 42. These were a lighter boot. So this is potentially an area that we could see improvement in the future. And honestly, maintaining that split outsole does add weight to the boot. So I would maybe expect eventually that to go away to shave some extra weight off. But Nike don't seem to be too worried about the weight as long as they are in that fairly lightweight speed boot category, which they absolutely are. And apparently my blue pair are 2 grams heavier than my orange pair. Who knows why? Okay, let's take a look at the outsole and the traction, and this is where the Mercurial Vapor 13 basically becomes a little bit more of a refresh on the Vapor 12 instead of being an actual new version, a whole new line of Mercurial. And that's because the stud pattern is basically identical, follows the same shape, the same setup, and it is still a split sole design. So you still get this in the back. They've just decided to take a cutout here. I'm assuming because it looks cool and it will take a couple of grams of weight off, a little reminiscent of the Nike GS 360. And then up in the forefoot, you will see that on first glance, this looks identical, apart from it seems they've added a really cool design element. but there are a couple of things that are different. The first one being that all of the studs across the whole boot are 1mm longer, which, placebo effect or not, does seem to make the pattern a little more aggressive. So they've taken the most aggressive stud pattern on the market and made it more aggressive. And then on top of that, you can see some of these studs here. They have like a little extra piece on the front of the chevron there. So they're almost becoming like a 3-piece chevron, even though that's not a thing. A 3-piece shape just here. And again, maybe a tiny bit more aggressive, and it just gives you a little bit of extra bite in a few other directions instead of just having straight line traction. And then the biggest change and the biggest improvement to the outsole on the Vapor 13 is this area here. So this is the AeroTrax outsole area. So what this does is this provides you with progressive bend, progressive stiffness, I suppose. So as you bend the boot, it basically applies extra tension. So you bend here and it allows the boot to bend fairly easily. And then the more and more you add, the stiffer and stiffer and harder it gets to bend because of this AeroTrax outsole, which provides you with spring back. So this is like loading up a spring. So it loads up the energy and then it's supposed to give you some energy return. A little bit more springy, a little bit more on your toes, a little bit more mercurial. And you know what? It works. It's really nice to have something that is like a graded amount of tension instead of just one really stiff piece of material. You tend to find if outsoles are stiff, they're just stiff. Like they're stiff all the way through. If the toe area is stiff, then that's just how it is. You apply that and it works. But to have that kind of graded amount of tension that you apply to give you that spring back feels really good, feels really springy, feels really on your toes, and I like it a lot. This is one of the smaller details, one of the smaller innovations that have been done to the boot, especially compared to how different the upper is. But I think this is really nice. It's a really nice little addition along with the stud shapes and the stud lengths. So overall, still the most aggressive traction on the market. In my opinion, still the best outsole, the best traction on the market. And I have nothing to complain about here. This is so good. So looks, I think that this is a phenomenal looking boot, whether it's in the limited edition orange, the New Lights blue color, or the under the radar black colorway. They all look amazing. I just think that addition of the new branding that runs all the way onto the sole plate and the Just Do It logo here really adds something. I think it's fantastic. I realize that potentially this, particularly the Just Do It, can be a little controversial. I've already had a couple of people tell me that they don't like it. I completely get that. But overall, I think it's a great looking boot. Obviously, the silhouette is very, very similar to that of the Vapor 12, but it is a much different boot. If you want to see a full detailed unboxing of the limited edition orange colorway and find out all the influences, why these boots were made the way they were, then do click the link just above to get my full unboxing video of this. And remember to subscribe because we're gonna have a full unboxing of this blue colorway as well. Okay, value for money. These retail for €250. Yes, in either the limited edition colorway or the regular colorway. However, you can't consider €250, even for a limited edition boot, to be good value for money, really. It's very expensive and it's right up the top end. It is better value for money than going out and buying the Superfly. The Superfly is exactly the same as the Vapor, apart from it has a little fly knit collar. So my advice there, definitely get the Vapor. This is also slightly more expensive than probably its closest competition, which is the Adidas X19.1, but the difference is fairly minimal. In that range, you should probably go for whichever of those boots you prefer. So, is it good value for money? Unfortunately not. Can I give you the recommendation that I usually give you, which is to go out and buy an older colorway? I cannot. These are brand new. There are 3 brand new colorways, all still at full price. So the advice is, if you can wait, definitely do that. Wait and pick these up when they go on sale, probably next month when a new colorway is out. But if you can't wait, it's €250. They are a phenomenal boot, but it's a lot of money.
You're welcome! Wait, what now?
So Nike have also made some improvements to the liner of the boot. So if you look down here, you can actually see the light shining through the side of the boot here. Now that is because the liner is now perforated. It's done to give you a little more breathability. It's also done to basically shave a bit of weight off, but it also helps to keep the liner nice and soft so that you do keep maintaining that soft upper sensation. It also helps the liner be super thin so you maintain that super barefoot, tight wrap and really pingy sensation when you strike a ball, because it helps keep it barefoot. So that's a nice small change that actually has helped out a lot. The liner itself, the insole, is still basically the same. It is the Nike Grip insole, which is mesh on the top and then this yellow foam with this patterning along the bottom. Now the pattern matches the pattern that's in the bottom of the boot. They're inverse to each other. So this locks into this and stops the insole from moving around. That's what your Nike Grip insole does. So on feet, I maintain exactly what I said before. I think these are absolutely amazing. I think these are drool worthy. I think they look fantastic. In terms of fit, these are basically painted onto my feet. They are super thin, super tight, and definitely the best kind of wrap, the best barefoot wrap you're gonna get from this boot. Barefoot wrap, and it is a barefoot sensation on the ball. I would have described the Vapor 12 as kind of an everyman's vapor. They're a vapor that most people would have been able to get into. Even if you had a super wide foot, you could probably get away with wearing the Vapor 12. The Vapor 11, I don't apply that logic to. It is a thinner, tighter boot, and if you have wide feet, the Mercurial line simply is probably just not for you. Size-wise, it is my usual size, UK 8, EU 42.5, and it fits me pretty much perfectly. There's a tiny bit of room in the end of the toe, the width is perfect, and these are very comfortable. The lockdown through the midfoot is fantastic, and then the heel lockdown with that extra little bit of padding in the heel is also very good. I have no complaints about the fit or the feel of these boots. I've got no complaints about the comfort either, which is amazing considering how thin these are. So yes, my recommendation, go true to size. So over the years, I've not been the biggest fan of Mercurials. Now that's not because they're bad boots. Objectively, they have almost always been the best speed boot on the market, but they've just not really done it for me. It's not a sensation or a feel on the ball that I seem to like. However, this, for me as well, has changed all that. This is a boot that I love wearing, I love playing in, and it's because the upper is so soft and because it wraps your foot so tightly. I just think this is fantastic. This is 100% right up there in the conversation for boot of the year so far for me. It really is that good. It's fantastic. If you are considering buying these, you should 100% go out and try them on because you're probably going to love them. And if you're sat there with a pair of Vapor 12s in your hand like, I've got Vapor 12s, I don't need to go out and buy the 13s. Yes, you do. Go out and buy the 13s. They are incredible. Just a great leap from Nike, fixing all the problems that the Vapor 12 had, innovating to fix some problems I didn't even know the Vapor 12 had. This is a phenomenal speed boot. If you do want to see that full unboxing of the special edition colorway, do click over here. Remember to subscribe because I do have a full unboxing of the blue colorway coming, as well as a comparison video between this generation and the previous generation of Superfly. So remember to subscribe to get all that. Drop down in the comments what you think of these boots. Have I completely lost my mind, or do you agree? Are they really that fantastic? Well, that's everything from Boot Wizard here today. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.